Hi, good afternoon. This is Nancy Mason. I am with the Muskogee Nation Youth Services Program, and we are excited to have you all with us today. We are doing another one of our wellness webinars, and we've got some great presenters coming up to talk about occupational and intellectual wellness. So first, let me go ahead and do a little housekeeping for us. If you're joining us through Zoom, you have the ability to ask questions or send us messages through the chat. So feel free to do that at any time so that we can get those questions to our presenters. If you're watching via Facebook Live, you can make those comments for us, and we'll also send those questions over to the presenters as well. So just a little bit about our program while we get other attendees to join us. Like I said, this is a Muskogee Nation Youth Services Program. We work to empower Muskogee youth by connecting to culture, community, and resources. And you see a few of our program goals there. We've been focusing on encouraging wellness with this project specifically. We're also going to talk a little bit about resources and some other things throughout the presentation. So you may hear a few of our other goals touched on today as well. Like I said, this is part of the Muskogee Youth Wellness Project. This is a program that is funded by a grant that was recommended to us for us by Nike and Seven. The goals of that grant is to increase physical wellness and promote cultural connections. And so even though that we're focusing on physical activity, increasing that physical activity, we wanted to focus on all areas of wellness with the young people and their families who are participating. And so we focus right now on 6 main areas of wellness. And like I said, today we're going to be talking about occupational and intellectual wellness. And so on our panel, we have a couple of great guests. We have Mia Hoskison. She is from the Employment and Training Program, and Pete Coser Jr. He is with the Higher Education Program. And we're going to let Mia start us out by going through her presentation first. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that switched over so she can see her presentation. And Mia, feel free to go ahead and introduce yourself more, tell them a little bit about more what you do and your program. Thanks.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mia Hoskison, and I'm the youth coordinator for the Mvskoke Creek Nation Employment and Training, the Youth Works program. I've been working as the youth coordinator for going on 3 years now. It was 2 years in October. And I have a partner who's not present with me today. His name is Cody Evans. He's our youth specialist. So we work together as a team with the employment and training administration, and everyone in our office really. I feel like we work pretty well as a team together, and it's a collaborative effort. So. I'm a graduate of Sequoia High School and also a graduate of Haskell Indian Nations University. So I am a product of Indian boarding schools. So I'm a big proponent of Indian education. And Nancy's invited me to come and talk to you guys a little bit about occupational wellness. So I did learn quite a lot doing this research. Researching this presentation. So I hope you guys can get something out of it, because I feel like I personally did. So and I'm ready to start whenever you are, Nancy.
Did that switch over for you?
It looks, let's see. Did it come up? It looks like it still says Muskogee Youth Wellness.
Let me see why that's doing that. Let me get the share on the right screen. Sorry about that. Hang on a sec.
Oh, that's okay. Also, I apologize if my kids come running in here. I am working from home, so you may hear my kids come in from time to time.
How's that, Mia? Can you see that now?
No, it looks like it's still the same one. Like the youth wellness presentation with the green border.
Gotcha. I'm gonna close that one totally, and maybe we can get this to click.
Okay. All right, cool. There it is. All right. So this is what I put together. It's called A Beginner's Guide to Occupational Wellness. And we can go ahead and go to, So what is occupational wellness and why is it important? Well, Princeton University defines occupational wellness as finding fulfillment from your work and study, contributing meaningfully, and continuing to expand your skills and strengths. We can kind of look at that as a way to find meaning in our work and the way we find enrichment, satisfaction, and fulfillment through our jobs. As humans, we spend a large percentage of our lives at our jobs, and how much enjoyment we find at work can be very predictive of our overall happiness and wellness. So, how do we find our ideal careers? That can be kind of like, I feel like a daunting task, for young people. It feels like you're picking a career for the rest of your life. That's not always necessarily the case, but the first step to attaining a dream job or an ideal career can begin early in your academic career. So it's never too late to follow your dreams. If later on in life you decide you want to do a career pivot, but the best way to prepare is to make your grades a priority as early in your academic career as possible. And if you already know what career field you might be interested in, begin asking questions. Counselors, teachers, parents, they can all be excellent resources for career information. The Mvskoke Creek Nation's Employment and Training Administration, my office, we also offer a variety of resources on career readiness programs and career assessments. For those of you guys that are not really sure of what your career interests might be. So oftentimes I'll have kids come in and take aptitude tests. One of them that I really like is the Myers-Briggs type indicator test. I feel like it's really fun, and you kind of learn a lot about yourself when you get those results. Another fun one that I know that Nancy's used in our life skills workshop is the True Colors assessment. Those are just kind of fun ways to get a feel for your personality and to see what might be suitable for you. Also, if you feel like you're in school and you could benefit from tutoring or need career guidance, be sure to communicate with your teachers and counselors about what you can do to prepare yourself for your future education. Online resources like Khan Academy and OK Career Guides, which is the aptitude test that my office uses, those are great tools for tutoring and for career research. So here we have the 16 career clusters. And this is kind of just the way that we break up every type of career is going to fall under one of these clusters. So we have agriculture, food and natural resources, architecture and construction, arts, audiovisual technology, communications, business management and administration, education and training, finance, hospitality and tourism, human services, information technology, law, public safety, corrections and security manufacturing, marketing, sales and service, and then STEM, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics. We have government and public administration, health sciences, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. So these just kind of help us identify what type of skills and educational background and interests that are needed to pursue these types of career paths. Every career is going to fall under one of these clusters, and it's really helpful to be familiar with them because they can offer a framework for you to create your career path. Understanding what kinds of skills and education for you to pursue a specific job is really important, and it's going to help you attain those job goals. For example, For those of you who might be interested in becoming an RN, a registered nurse, your career path is going to fall under health science. So knowing that you want to pursue this career is going to aid you in choosing the correct school and licensure. And it's important to know that because even just within the field of nursing, you're going to have different licenses and different types of education paths to be a specific type of nurse. So like a BSN, an RN, an LPN, those are all going to be different educational paths. And I feel like knowing those things is really going to prevent you from spinning your wheels and taking classes that you don't need and, wasting time. Because it costs money too, to stay in school, taking classes that you don't need. So sometimes if you can work backwards from the career that you want, I find that probably to be the most helpful. And also, so say you want to become an elementary school teacher, it would be really helpful to know that you're going to need a bachelor's degree, preferably in education. So that makes a big difference, knowing how to get to that ideal career. And so we have choosing the right education path. We kind of touched on that a little bit. So are you going to need to attend a 4-year university? Are you going to need to go to a vocational or a trade school? Do you need a certification rather than a degree from a university? Do you need a bachelor's or an associate's or some other type of professional degree? These are all different paths that can take you to that career. And it's all going to be based on the profession that you're picking. So whenever you're picking a school, consider your academic goals. Think about things like the campus culture, like whether that school is, it's a small school or a large school. If you come from a small town, I know that if you come from a really small school, sometimes it's better to go into a school that might be a little bit smaller with smaller class sizes. Think about your financial aid. Think about the career development opportunities that are offered by the school. Some schools have career readiness programs that are already integrated into the school, and other schools don't have that. So to me, I find that to be really helpful for those graduates. So sometimes people get out of college and they flounder for a little bit because they're not really sure what profession they want to go into and what type of job that they can actually get. So those career readiness programs really help students identify where it is that they can go to work. Let's see. So if you're interested, for those of you guys that are interested in something specific like graphic design or audiovisual arts, it would be really important to attend a school with a strong AV technology program or a communications program. And also, I really want to stress the importance of job shadowing, apprenticeships, and internships. Those are really great ways to get your foot in the door. They give you practical work experience, which a lot of graduates don't have when they've spent time in school and they haven't really, they have the background for it, but they don't have the practical experience. And so sometimes that can make it hard to find a job right out of college or right out of a tech program. So career programs like micro program, the Mvskoke Creek Nation Summer Youth Employment Program offers a lot of opportunities for social, educational, and professional growth. And it's not just a great way to earn money over the summer, but you can, get that hands-on job experience and networking opportunities that a lot of us, we don't have while we're in high school and in college. And sometimes you even make connections that can help you get future employment. So getting that practical experience in a specific career field gives you an edge in landing a good job. Keep in mind that many students enter college, they don't know what they want to do. And they'll take basics to kind of, get a feel of what they like while they can accumulate some of those credits. So Again, don't feel pressured to make a decision right away, and consider the types of learning environments, and what kind of tutoring opportunities they might have, because larger schools are going to offer more resources, activities, and student organizations. So I mean, there are pros and cons that come with both. And one more thing I'll add about that is for Native students, tribal colleges can offer quality education programs, but they have that culturally focused student-teacher community that a lot of Indigenous students will thrive in. And so what are some things that we want to consider when we're choosing a career? We definitely want to consider our personality. So you might think about how much time you're going to spend at our job. I mean, like, we spend 8 hours a day, and it's really important that we enjoy what we're doing at our job. So think strategically about your career. Don't base your decision entirely on salary. I know that as a youth, like, sometimes that's like the main thing that we'll focus on is how much money we can make. But salary is not the end all be all, and it turns out that it's not the best indicator of job satisfaction or happiness. So think about your personality and whether your personality is a good fit for your job. If you like to work in teams, or do you like to work alone? Think about your work environment. Is the work environment suited for you? Do you prefer to work indoors or outdoors? Do you like to work in a quiet place? Do you value consistency, or would you rather have an exciting career where maybe like you travel a lot? Some people prefer to have consistency and stay in one place all the time. So I mean, it really just depends on what your personality is like. And then you'll want to think about your skill set. So your skill utilization. Do you utilize the talents that you have? And are you meeting your full potential? Are you good at things like, do you have a talent for working with tools and machines? Or are you somebody who's really good at working on computers? Or maybe you have a talent for public speaking. Those are all skills and gifts that people have. And sometimes when they're in a job where they're not utilizing those skills, it can cause job dissatisfaction. So another thing you might think about is meaning. So does this type of work give your life purpose and meaning? Do you feel like you can make a contribution to your community? For a lot of people, contributing to the community that they live in is really important. So that's definitely something to think about. And then you do want to think about your salary. Are you being compensated fairly for your work? Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about informational interviews and networking. So one thing that I really didn't know a whole lot about when I was in high school or in college was the importance of networking and who you know. So knowing your network, like, who is it that you know? So there's a chance that someone in your family, maybe at your school, at your church, or maybe like on your basketball team, maybe they have a friend or family member that works in a career that you're interested in. Some other mutual acquaintance. I mean, don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions and schedule a time to interview about their career field. When you do that, that's called an informational interview. And so when you schedule something like an informational interview, it's important to know what types of questions to ask. You want to make sure that they're questions you can't just Google, because sometimes people have like lived experiences that are going to give you a little more insight than what you might be able to find online. But you might ask them some questions like, what are some of the challenges in your role? What are the skills needed to be successful in this job? What program did you complete to get this job? Are there any professional licenses that you had to obtain to get this career? And then maybe ask them what types of schools that they suggest for you to attend. For a lot of us, we may not have anyone that's a connection to a specific field. but that's okay because it's 2021 and we have online research, or we have like online tools like LinkedIn, where you can build a network and build a professional profile where you can advertise your resume. And sometimes when you start adding people that you know, people from your school, maybe from your college, teachers, you might find that someone on LinkedIn is a mutual, or you might have like a mutual friend. So it might be kind of weird or feel kind of strange to like DM somebody questions about their career. But I get the feel that there are a lot of professionals out there who are willing to answer questions from youth if they feel that they are genuinely interested in gaining some more knowledge about it. So don't be afraid to ask questions and find out how you can create some connections to that field that you're wanting to get into. And then we want to talk a little bit about balancing your work life and balancing your home life. And so occupational wellness, it relies not just on the things that we do within our workspace, but how well we maintain a healthy balance between work and play. So when you're at work, you know, one of the things you might want to do is take breaks, stretch, go on walks, give yourself kind of like a mental break. And also whenever you're not at home, you know, make time for hobbies, for social activities, and even, you know, maybe plan like a weekend vacation on your free time. Taking up hobbies like, you know, that you can even do at home. I know like there's a lot of things we can't do because of restrictions for COVID, you know, but taking up new hobbies like beading can be like a great way to unwind and express yourself creatively. There are a lot of low impact exercises like yoga that are, you know, great ways to relax after work. And there's a lot of free resources on YouTube that you can access. Meditation, you know, that serves as like, it's free, and there are tons of guided exercises that you can find. And those serve as really healthy tools for stress reduction and increase an overall physical and mental well-being. Remember too, you know, we're humans, but we are spiritual beings, you know, so your spiritual wellness is equally important. So if you're someone who attends church, or maybe you attend stomp dances or other ceremonies, these are all ways that you can restore your well-being, and they are an integral part of our culture. So don't forget about restoring yourself that way too. I wanted to talk a little bit too about career pivoting. So life changes, you know, there are tons of things that are going to happen throughout your life. Our values and our interests change, and they change over time. There are going to be huge changes, like having a family, getting married, having children, having a big move. I mean, like these are all big things that cause us to kind of reevaluate, you know, our career choices. And they might even cause us to find either more satisfaction, or they might cause us to find dissatisfaction in the career that we have. Continuing education courses and certifications can kind of help you to build your knowledge base and make a career change possible. So if you decide one day that you don't like the job that you're in, it's never too late to build your resume and make that career pivot to something else. Millennials and Gen Z really have a tendency to change careers more than older generations have. So on average, you guys are spending only about 2.5 years in any job. So what older generations did were staying in a job, you know, sometimes 20 years. It really doesn't seem to be the trend for you guys. So knowing how to address these career pivots is very important for young people. You'll want to evaluate your skills whenever you're deciding that you want to make a career pivot. You might look at your current career and take a personal inventory of what types of skills that you have and what types What types of things are you doing in your role? See how those skills can serve you in the next job that you take. So we can look at transferable skills like leadership, written and verbal communication, teamwork. Those are all things that employers are looking at to, they're looking for people with those skills to hire. So recognize your skills where you're lacking so you can start taking classes, or you can start working on a new certification, and it'll kind of help you bridge that gap in your knowledge base. And we'll talk a little bit about work culture. So what work culture is the atmosphere that's created by a company or an organization. That includes attitudes, beliefs, behaviors. That type of atmosphere is upheld by the leadership and the administration of an organization, as well as every employee who's there. So like all of your coworkers are going to, they're going to make up your work culture. A lot of organizations have a mission statement that outlines the values and goals that they strive for. But then there's also the everyday environment that's equally important. And that part really affects our well-being. So, you know, the work culture can be positive or negative. And it can really affect, it can affect how we feel. If it feels like it's a really negative space to go to work every day, you're not going to want to go. So it's something that you can look at maybe before you decide to take a job someplace. But there are some basic things we can look at to see if they suit us and tell if that work environment is healthy. One of those things is accountability. Is each person responsible for their work, their behavior, and their mistakes? You want to look at equity. Is each employee being treated fairly and equally? Sometimes you'll find in organizations that there's favoritism, and sometimes that can cause a toxic work environment because it creates resentment among coworkers. You don't want to go someplace, you don't want to work somewhere that has a lot of favoritism, because there's going to be resentment, and that's one of the things you'll want to look for. But another one is expression. To see if each person is allowed to have free time and to have breaks and reasonable expression in the way that they are able to dress. I say reasonable because I know that there's definitely a dress code for every office, but sometimes you can look at an office and see if employees feel free to decorate their workspace. That can indicate that they feel comfortable in that work culture. You'll want to look at communication. Each person within an organization must know how to give and receive feedback. Sometimes it's going to be complimentary. They'll give compliments, but at times it's going to be constructive criticism. I think all of us really need to know how to take constructive criticism when you have an employer, you know, that they have something to tell you, and kind of see where you can fix those flaws. But every employee has to feel comfortable enough to communicate concerns with their supervisors, because without that line of communication, you're going to have a lot of problems that are not able to be resolved. And then they just kind of fester, and it makes it not a good place to work. Lastly, there's recognition. So in a positive work culture, leadership will share credit with the team, and they'll look for ways to encourage and praise their employees. I think that's really important. Raises and opportunities for career development and personal development serve as positive recognition. So be looking at what type of leadership exists in that company or that organization that you're going to work for. And then we'll talk a little bit about our office. So the employment and training office has a ton of programs and resources that are available for you guys. We have our summer youth program. Which is an 8-week employment program for Native American youth ages 16 to 21 living within the Mvskoke Creek Nation Reservation. Summer Youth collaborates with Mvskoke Nation's Youth Services and behavioral health to provide life skills for you guys. We also have a financial literacy curriculum. And what will happen is all of our youth are placed at work sites that fall within their field of interest, and you will work up to 40 hours a week. This is a really great opportunity for you to build your resume, gain those networking opportunities, and get a feel for different career paths. So you might go into a job that you feel like you were interested in, work for the 8 weeks, and then decide that it really wasn't for you. Even if you decide that it's not for you, it's still a good lesson to learn, to know that that's not something that you want to go into. If you're interested in applying, you can go to bit.ly/MCNSY2021. Our application deadline isn't until March 31st. The start date for our program will be June 7th and run through July 30th. And you can also access that application by going to the Employment and Training tab. If you go to the Mvskoke Creek Nation website, there's an education tab, and then from there, you'll go to Employment and Training, and it's one of the very first applications that's going to show up on that page. We also offer, our office also offers incentives for youth that have been on the program for good grades, and then specific grants that we offer for students that go to OSUIT, but also some of the other tech schools that are in our area. We offer GED services. We can try to find GED classes that are near you. We also offer GED incentives. We have support service for adults and for youth. But if you started a job and if you started a new job, it has to be before you get your first full paycheck, but depending on whether or not your job is full-time or part-time, it'll either be $150 support service if it's part-time and $300 if it's full-time. We offer career readiness both for youth and for adults. We have classroom training, the Tribal Grant and Incentive Program, as well as our college work experience program. If you guys are interested in that, you can contact our office at 918-732-7773, or you can contact me directly at 918-732-7775, sorry. But again, you can access all of the information about our programs under the Education tab and then through the Employment and Training webpage. And I did put some links on here. The first one is for the OK Career Guide. That is our aptitude test that ETA uses. The 16 personalities is the Myers-Briggs personality test, which is fun, and I feel like you can learn a lot about yourself by taking that one. Plus, it's cool. It takes a little, I think maybe like 20 minutes to complete, but it's a fun one. And then to listed Khan Academy, if you're wanting, they have career readiness modules on there if you guys want to look at those, as well as some really good links for all kinds of subjects. So like math, science, like there's a lot of different things. I think even like art history, world history, it's a good website. So feel free to check those out. And then I think that's all. If you guys have any questions, let me take a look at the chat to see if I can see some of these. Oh, okay.
I put a lot of links that you mentioned in the chat.
Awesome.
Yeah, we do have a comment. The college work experience is an awesome program.
Yes, it is. I really like that. The college work experience program. I went through it before, and that's neat to be on the other side of it now, seeing youth go through that program.
Definitely. We do have a question from Waylon. He's asking how old you have to be. I think for the summer youth program, would you say that again?
Okay, so it's for youth 16 to 21. You have to turn 16 by June 7th. And if you can be 21 on June 7th, but you can't turn 22 on June 7th. So you can turn 22 after the first date, but not on your first day.
Okay. And it looks like we don't have any questions on Facebook right now. Oh, I see one in the chat. Oh, Waylon says, dang, he's only 13.
Oh, well, we'll see you in about 3 years.
That's right. Okay. Okay, so that's all the questions I see for Mia right now. Hang on, they may have some more though. Next up, we have Pete Coser Jr. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing so he can share his presentation.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks, Mia.
Thank you.
All right, and we good to go?
Yes, sir, you're ready.
All right. Well, Hische Stango, Pete Coser Jr., Joe Jifkados moment, Albicadella de Jogothaco Estamanai moment, Gisita Adelwa Estamanai moment, Chilogia Kadoy Hische. So my name is Pete Coser Jr. I am the manager of higher education creation. I'm also from the Casita tribal town and excuse me, Casita tribal town. I'm more of an adopted status with the Arbica ceremonial ground, where I get my name from, and then from the Fox clan. So wanted to introduce myself and who my family is among the Creek Nation. What I have been asked for, and I want to say Mado to Nancy and everyone at Youth Services, is to provide a presentation about intellectual wellness. And immediately I was like, what? and so I started reading through the literature, and it's still very broad in its approach. And so what I'm hoping to provide today is some ideas, some practices, and some ways to add a little bit more arsenal to your thinking. You know, as we start talking about, you know, topics that affect our Creek and Native communities on a broader scale. Sometimes we just hit the tip of the iceberg. We don't really dive into the issues and unpack, you know, how we got there. You know, the McGirt case was something years in advance, and you know, lots of years of federal Indian policy, and especially decisions that affected the 5 tribes. Equated into one of the biggest rulings for federal Indian policy and, you know, for the Creek Nation in a very long time. So this is something that, you know, we have to start asking the right questions, and we start having to make connections where maybe we haven't thought of before. And so what I'm gonna take a dive into is, you know, some ideas and some ways to think about how we approach whether it's projects. You know, Mia gave great ideas and a presentation over job and job performance and career setting goals and stuff like that. The intellectual side also needs to be a part of your arsenal as a professional, as a student, you as a person. So this is very important. And, hopefully, again, this is not the silver bullet. This is not the end all game, but these are some ideas on how to approach this topic. So I'm going to share my screen and let's go. Okay. So special shout out to the Language Preservation Department. They were able to translate this into Greek. There's not necessarily a way to say intellectual wellness, but it is a way to ask, well, what do you think? Chifiknada githla. So Chifiknada githla. I stand corrected. So what do you think? Conversation on intellectual wellness. So what we're going to cover today, I've already given my intro. I'll talk a little bit what we do here at the Department of Higher Ed before we jump into some other, the main topic. Talk about what is intellectual wellness, what does it look like, how does that tie into higher education, how does it tie into mental wealth. I say mental wealth instead of mental health because the ultimate goal for training our thought processes and strengthening our brain, that's wealth. And how we treat ourselves and the environment around us, as well as give you some quick resources and then end off with some questions that anyone is more than welcome to ask. So, who is the Department of Higher Education? We are committed to providing supplemental financial assistance. Jumped ahead of me. Providing supplemental financial assistance to and opportunities to student citizens of the Mvskoke Creek Nation, keeps switching on me, through travel grants and awards. Our student cultural centered approach provides assistance in student outreach to contribute to the sustainability and progress of the Mvskoke Creek Nation. So what we do in addition to that is we provide over 7-8 programs, different scholarships and grants to over 1,700 students. And so that's, it does take a little bit of time. And just being honest, it's one of those things where, lots of our nation has been affected by COVID. So we're on a rotating basis. We're a staff of 10. And then again, we serve over 1,700 students at over 400 different institutions all across the nation in Hawaii and Alaska. So what does our service model look like? Well, some of you for this layout may look familiar. So what we did is how do we approach students? How do we contribute? How do we help provide that assistance from the nation to help a program scholar achieve success? So the 3 boxes within the oval are the services that we provide, as well as the processes, and then the results. You can see that the program scholar is the center of what we do. And then outside of the oval are the other elements of the student experience and what the student carries with them at their institution. So this is where we fit into it. We're just one element, supplemental. And again, each staff, for myself all the way to our undergrad and receptionists, we're working diligently to service students as promptly as we can. So, as we jump into intellectual wellness, there was a lot of definitions, but they kind of kind of fed off each other. So there's not one concrete definition, but I thought this one was a perfect one. This one's from the Vanderbilt website. Excuse me. Intellectual wellness is the ability to open our minds and new ideas and experiences that can be applied to personal decisions, group interaction, and community betterment. So basically, I talked to our cabinet secretary, Dr. Randall, and actually Mia's boss, Courtney. What were their ideas of intellectual wellness? And I spoke with them today, and it's centered around being an active learner. So, as we talk about, being a student in the classroom, native student, but also as a future professional, one of those characteristics that professors and future employers look for is someone to be an active learner. If you think about it, the things that during the pandemic have really shown us is that, we've had to be active on how to learn things like, like Zoom meetings, the capabilities, the ins and outs, how do we share, how do we record, things like that. A lot of it took us to places where we haven't been before. And so being an active learner is very key to continuing you as a student and as a future professional. So what does it look like? It's an ongoing practice, active learning. There's always something new, and there's always something that's going to pop up. About this time last year, no one knew what the full impact of COVID was going to be. No one knew how it was going to affect people. No one knew about how effective masks were already. And doing simple things as washing your hands for 20 seconds. But as the pandemic continually built, a lot of us continue to read up on the recommendations, whether it's from the CDC or our local clinics and hospitals. And so here in the department, we started doing things like hand washing schedules during the day back in March and April, and setting aside the last 10 to 15 minutes of the day, sanitizing our workspaces. And so, again, all of that is a part of active learning. Second point, what makes you happy? Start with these simple questions. It doesn't necessarily have to be the COVID pandemic, although that's what we constantly talk about these days. But what interests you? What is it that you could sit down and have a 20-minute conversation about the ins and outs of whatever. I'm a big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, so my kids and I watch it from beginning to end. Things like that. What are you interested in? How can you make these components connect? Because there's going to be a lot of intersections, not necessarily Avatar, but whatever is your interest area. And then what are some pieces of new information that you learn? And then what's the complexity behind the issue? What is, as I go into this next slide, just to give you a little bit of background, I've been marathon running for about 3-4 years roughly, and I've knocked out 6 marathons. And I can tell you, and I'm using this as an example, but it's one of those things that there's so many components to it that it's just more than getting out there, lacing up your shoes and hitting the trail, although that is a major part of it. But what's the physical health? Obviously, you're moving, you're burning energy, fat, carbs, things like that. But how's your diet before you hit the trail? Are you eating the right amount of carbs and sugars? Or are you eating the right amount of proteins? Are you lifting weights before you run? Are you stretching? Are you sitting on a roller? Do your ankles hurt? Is that connected to the tight calves that you might have? So these things are, have, before you even hit the trail, those are some of the things that you have to do as a runner to consider and to provide maintenance on your body. But then you talk to any runner out there, it's a huge mental health deal to us as well. Whenever we hit the road, finally thoughts can make sense again. When we run, that's our time and space in the world to make sense of a lot of things around us, and get our mental health game right. And then as a science, as a marathon runner, just like any science experiment you experiment with your shoes, with your breathing, with your posture, with your a lot of momentum, speed, especially food intake. For me, I know at mile 5, 6, I need a gel pack. At the half marathon point, I need to eat some bagel or peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something. And then obviously there's running in competition. But each of these facts that I'm bringing up is how you expand your thinking to a certain subject. Again, I'm just using running and how it benefits, but also how science is involved, how mental health is involved, physical health, and competition, how it equates to your performance on race day. And then for our Native folks, what does it mean for Native people? What does it mean for Creek people? You wouldn't expect me to talk about the McGirt case and how the Supreme Court reaffirmed our tribal jurisdiction, our reservation. So in a sense, when you run inside our jurisdiction, we are reclaiming our right to the land. So each of these is about perspective and what we do as tribal people. Also, you get 10 cool points if you can name the athlete on this slide. He's the only American to win the gold medal in the 10K. Just giving you some hint on that one. And then intellectual wellness and higher ed. Again, this is critical thinking. Where do we start making the connections? How can we start bringing in other ideas and making intersecting points and making arguments and advocacy points for our folks? It takes a little bit of digging, researching, and application of different contributors. One of my favorite professors from my master's work at OU said the two most important questions you could ever ask in research is why and who benefits. So, as we talk about, things like missing and murdered Indigenous women, this is not a topic, or this is not a, these aren't incidents that just happen right then and there. This is a buildup of years of Supreme Court cases and policies that have affected what tribes can and cannot do, even on our own lands. If around 80% of of Indigenous women, their perpetrators are non-Indian, due to a Supreme Court case in the 70s called the Oliphant decision. Before then, tribes didn't have jurisdiction over non-Indian perpetrators. That was supposed to be a criminal jurisdiction for the federal government that was established in the 1800s. So through the Major Crimes Act. So as you know, these issues, and rightfully so, are being brought up and advocated for, then you start breaking down the mountain. You know, right around 6, 7, 8 years ago, we had the Violence Against Women Act, which a part of that legislation expanded expanded powers over non-Indian perpetrators, and tribes could hold folks accountable. So, you know, that was an important step, major step. So it's just something to think about. And then as we, you know, try to right these wrongs, what are there some resolutions that are out there? You know, National Indian Education Association, NIEA, has a great slogan where they say, think Indian. And to me, it reminds us that we need to, as we approach resolutions and try to solve things for our people, our communities, you know, what are the traditional protocols? What are the things that, how can we resolve this trauma? And what are some positive steps? What are some ways we can start healing? And so, you know, those, again, when we talk about intellectual wellness and things like that, this is where we have to start making the connections and begin moving forward. And then, you know, I told Nancy earlier today, you know, as far as like the mental wealth part, it was a little bit of a struggle because, you know, due to COVID, it seems like the traumas and the stigmas and a lot of the struggles people have, you know, the pandemic has really escalated and driven up depression and anxiety in a lot of struggles like that. So, you know, I'll provide some resources here in a few and share some additional perspective. But I do want folks to know that, you know, there's folks that are familiar with those struggles. And unfortunately, you know, there's students that have suffered. So these things are real. And, you know, we all, you know, from each of our departments are working to find some sort of resolution to that as well. So just to recap, intellectual wellness is about becoming an active learner. Critical thinking is key. Again, the most important questions you can ask in any situation is why and who benefits. You know, each topic that you encounter as a student and a professional, there's a lot of complexity behind it, and it requires holistic thinking. And then again, as we progress and evolve during this time of the pandemic, you know, it's really important to consider our mental wealth and make sure that we as a person, as a people, are doing right for ourselves as well. And then again, the Think Indian part from NIEA. So here are some resources. Obviously, you just saw me nerd out on what is running, but there are great ways to interact with multiple universities. edX is an online platform with partner universities from the Ivy Leagues, for instance. you can actually take classes from them. And they have a ton of different resources and classes. And some of them are free from these institutions. And then for those of you that are in college or a higher ed institution, student groups of interest are there. Might take a little footwork, but they are there, especially your native groups that are pretty active. Mental health. Most institutions will have those kind of resources as a part of their wellness or student health departments. Be sure to use them. They are there for you. You pay for them through your fees and tuition and things like that. Smartphone apps. I'm a big fan of Calm and Headspace. So it gives you some time to, some recommendations on how to meditate during the day, or if you have build up in anxiety or anything like that. Podcasts. I'm a huge fan of podcasts. Dope Labs has a, it's a science-based podcast with a hip hop twist. I love it. It's brilliant how they intertwine the two. And then my friend Danae Dorami, she's from the Navajo Nation, has a podcast called Grounded. And that is a podcast that focuses on Indigenous runners. So that one just started, and I believe the 3rd episode is dropped either today or tomorrow. But it's brand new, so those are great. Also, Creek Nation's Behavioral Health. They have a lot of online resources that'll be able to help you out. And there's their phone number. And then again, special shout out to the Language Preservation. They do have a Facebook. It is pretty active. They put out videos. It seems like twice a week almost. But the people there are great and very helpful, and they provide a lot of material. So be more than happy to answer any questions, Nancy or from any of the audience. And again, 10 more cool points if you can name where this scene from a movie came from. Mado.
Looks like I just won 20 cool points because I know both. Hey,
My
Pete.
kids love this movie, by the way.
I know, right? It's a classic. It is. Thanks, Pete, so much. If you have questions, please put them in the chat or in the Q&A. Again, if you're watching on Facebook Live, you can put those in the comments. I don't see any that are currently up. So while we're waiting, I'm just going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about upcoming webinars we have that will give people time if they do have any other questions for Pete or for Mia. Let me just share this information real quick. So just upcoming webinars that we have for this project specifically, the Wellness Project, we have workouts every Tuesday at 4. Next week is our week for yoga. So if you're interested in yoga, definitely come join us on Facebook Live. We also post all of our workouts. We've actually had, this will be our 10th workout coming up. And so we have all the workouts recorded. They're on our YouTube channel. If you want to catch those and check them out, there's a really great boot camp one. And we have somebody doing Zumba, yoga, and then one that's just like family friendly exercises to get you engaged. Lots of fun games. So those are available. Oh, and I updated this and didn't put the right title. On February the 17th, we've already had the Occupational Intellectual Wellness webinar. That's today. On the 17th, in 2 weeks, we'll have a webinar on social wellness. So we hope that you can come back and join us then. That will also be at 4 o'clock. You can join us via Zoom. Register at mvskokeyouth.com/event-registration. Or you can, again, watch us on Facebook Live. I'm going to check and make sure I don't see any other questions. Yeah, I'm not seeing any. So it looks like you guys did an excellent job and presented all of the information that everyone needed, right? That's exactly what happened. Are any last words? I know Mia mentioned the summer youth deadline is March the 31st. Yeah, make sure you get your applications in. Like she said, that is a really great opportunity to learn about a career that you might be interested in, or like she said, figure out that you aren't really interested in it and go another route. Pete, do you have any upcoming deadlines with your program?
Not any deadlines, but if you're going to be a new enrollee with our programs, the open enrollment will be March 1st. So
Okay.
This is for next fall 2021.
Perfect. Okay, sounds good. There is one question that just came into the chat. It's, what's your summary of occupational and intellectual wellness? Oh, and then they said, Nancy, maybe that's for me. Well, I'm going to steal what Pete just said about intellectual wellness. I think it's that active learner. I totally agree with that. It's like that lifelong learning. We're always learning, whether that be a new skill or a hobby or those kind of things. And then as far as occupational wellness, I go back to what Mia was talking about as far as like being in that place that you love to come to work to, that you enjoy your coworkers, you love what you do, those kind of things. Do you all want to add anything else as far as a summary that you would have?
Yeah, I think it's the occupational wellness part. Yeah, I think you pretty well summed it up. Loving what you do and feeling like you're making a difference with the people and the community around you.
Yeah, that's good.
Like we said before, think Stajati, think Indian.
Good. Yeah. Thanks, Pete. All right. Mado, I appreciate you all so much. You did great presentations. If you need more information, need to contact our program. You see our contact info there on the screen. Follow us on social media at Mvskoke Youth, and we'll keep you updated about upcoming activities within our program, as well as other programs for youth and families. All right, everybody have a great evening. Thank you all.
Mado, thank you.